I'm Eric from Longbox Review.
I'm Peter from the Daily Rios, and this is episode 35 of Eric and Peter's Legion Project Podcast. And welcome back to the Legion Project Podcast. This is Peter.
And this is Eric.
And we are back to discuss the final chapter in the grand Universo project, Legion of Superheroes issue number 35, throwing us back to March of 1987, the very storyline that is our namesake.
Not to be confused with, this is not the end of the Legion Project podcast, just the end of the Universo project.
Well, who knows? Maybe when we hear our thoughts, after this, after the Legion project or the Universo project, do we have to change our name or do we get to keep it?
Ooh, the universe is rebooted. Is that what you're saying?
Do we have to now call ourselves the Magic Wars podcast?
Oh God, no, please, no.
So we'll find out. We'll find out what our thoughts are about this wrap up, about this issue of the storyline in general. Mm-hmm. A reminder to listeners, we are a little bit over the halfway mark for this entire volume, all 63 issues plus annuals. So it feels like this whole storyline has been like the midway marker. Like we've been rushing after the Sensa Girl stuff, like we've been rushing through it, getting to, we wanted to get to this. And now it's gonna be very interesting to see what's after this and where our energies lie. And we'll probably have to let the book dictate that outside of a few storylines that we know are coming up. So that's gonna be fun.
So wait, when you had the inspiration to name the show after the Universo project, did you already have that in mind that it was about halfway through the run?
No, I didn't. That came later.
That's fun.
Later. Yeah. I think I just wanted something that had the flavor of, I didn't want to call it, there's already a clubhouse and, I mean, it's a terrible name for iTunes, because Legion could be anything.
Right.
But it made sense, the Legion project. I like the word project. I always like those kind of words, like, when it comes to podcast stuff,
Well, and you have so many in the works, so.
Right, exactly. Right. It's like one more. We could totally stop and turn into, the Care Bear project or, the Strike Force Moratorium project or whatever, It's endless.
It's
right? Endless.
It's a potential franchise here, just waiting for subject matters.
Right. So we are here. We're gonna discuss this issue, and that's probably, we don't really have a lot in terms of Legion in other DC comics at this time, outside of just some random comments I might have later. But I thought we could start real quick here at the top, mentioning a few current Legion things. So for instance, back in January, as we're recording this, in late February, Justice League versus Legion of Superheroes #1 shipped. Eric is holding it up. Yep. February 9th, the second hardcover volume of Legion of Superheroes Before the Darkness shipped.
That's in my next shipment that I get next month. It's already in the queue to be put into a box.
Nice. Collecting issues 272 through 283, everything close to leading up to the Great Darkness saga. And that is the second of 2 volumes. And then by the time you're hearing this, or depending on when we get it released, eventually Justice League versus Legion of Superheroes issue 2 will be released. So Eric has read the first issue.
Mm-hmm.
Care to give us some thoughts?
Yeah, in fact, as we are recording this, I received this issue the night before, and so since I was going to be talking with Peter, and I thought, well, maybe he might have read it already, so we might have some, not necessarily to talk about it on this show or this particular episode, but I read it just in case. And so, yeah, this seems like a continuation of the Bendis Sook Legion of Superheroes, that 12 issues that we have yet to talk about in total. But it focuses heavily on the Gold Lantern, and that was heavily suggested. That's where the direction of the next storyline might go in that book. And then what COVID, I don't know exactly what happened with the Legion book, but it ended at 12, and now we have this mini series with teaming up that team of Legion characters with our current Justice League folks. And so, and there's a whole the Great Darkness thing that's going on that was hinted at the end of the Bendis Sook Legion book. Mm-hmm. And so we're just getting an opening salvo to that. And really it's surprisingly light on Justice League, considering that they, are at the top of this title, and they're the more well-known characters to readers of the DC universe, I would assume. But who knows these days? I'm pretty sure that's true.
Yeah.
But anyway, so there's a lot of time spent on introducing these characters in the way that Bendis likes to do things.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm hoping, eventually we'll get around to talking about this miniseries, I'm sure, on a Tales episode. But it's not bad, Peter. So I'd be curious to hear what you have to say about it once you have read it.
Okay, I read a few reviews lightly at it, and flipped through it as well. I mean, it's not like anything too, it's not like you're going to be spoiled by anything too major. But some people were like, not a lot of verses going on in this first issue, but we have five more to go.
Yeah, the verses part of it in this issue is basically, did you do this thing, this darkness thing, and then they just move on from there.
And it also feels a little bit like a precursor to the recently announced Dark Crisis as well. It seemed like both of these writers had ideas, and those ideas they decided to merge one way or another depending on how it's all going to turn out.
Yeah, maybe that is the reason why they decided to move this storyline into its own miniseries, leading up to, they were making plans for this Dark Crisis thing. I don't know, who knows? But that kind of stuff actually kind of fascinates me. I'd love to know how they arrive at these decisions and how that impacts the line and all this kind of stuff.
Right. Okay, good. So we'll get to Bendis Legion. We'll even talk a little bit about it at the end. We'll let listeners know what we're going to be planning for future episodes. So Bendis Legion will make a return. If that's it, I think we could probably go to the book. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Legion of Superheroes issue number 35, the Universo Project, chapter 4.
Forgotten Friends.
Yeah, I mean we're sort of stoked on the first issue. Second issue kind of chugged along. Third issue was a little bit of a so
little bit of a bump in the road.
Yeah. So now we get to see where this ends,
or a pothole, depending on your perspective. Okay. All right. Chapter 4, Forgotten Friends, written by Paul Levitz, Greg LaRocque, penciler, Mike DiCarlo, inker, Arn Starr, inking assist. Again, John Costanza, letterer, Carl Gafford, colorist, and Karen Berger is editor, with a Steve Lytle cover. So what's this issue about? The Forgotten Legionnaires, the four, finally have their showdown with Universo. Saturn Girl probes the mind of a captured science police officer to give us much needed backstory about what's been happening on Earth. From this, the Forgotten Legionnaires decide they must get to President Desai, aka Universo. Ultra Boy and Mon-El capture a visiting Durlin to take him to the science police so that they can rule out that he's not Chameleon Boy. The four infiltrate the presidential palace, and Saturn Girl is able to probe Desai's mind to determine he's being used by Universo. He's not Universo. Dream Girl foresees an attack, and more former Legionnaires arrive, led by Element Lad. He attempts to convince them to surrender peacefully. Brainiac 5 wants the four to institute his backup plan before they are attacked, but Saturn Girl has a plan of her own, so she mind zaps Element Lad's team, and the four escape. Brainiac 5 takes Dream Girl and Chameleon Boy to his original laboratory at Metropolis University, but Dawnstar tracks them there. Element Lad tries again to talk them down, but Chameleon Boy sucker punches his former leader, and Dream Girl and Brainiac 5 use force field technology offensively, with Dream Girl taking out Polar Boy and Colossal Boy before Magnetic Kid knocks her out. Lots of action in that scene. Saturn Girl makes a surprise visit to former United Planets president Marta Allen. Peter, how do you say that? Is it Marta or Marty?
Marta sounds good.
Marta?
I like Marta. Yeah, I like Marta.
That's usually how I say it, but then I got to it. I'm like, I don't know. How is that pronounced? All right, back to the synopsis. Brainiac 5 is able to hold off Lightning Lass, Sun Boy, and Shadow Lass, while Chameleon Boy incapacitates Magnetic Kid. Brainiac 5 activates a robot to help them, but Tellus, White Witch, and Shrinking Violet are able to subdue both Brainiac 5 and Chameleon Boy. Saturn Girl returns to the presidential palace to confront Universo, but first must deal with bodyguards Ultra Boy and Mon-El. After she defeats them by attacking their subconscious minds, she and Universo battle hypnotism versus telepathy. Of course, Saturn Girl triumphs and uses Universo's hypnotic medallion to restore her teammates' wills. President Desai rescinds all orders made while under Universo's influence and helps to restore the Legion headquarters. When he tries to thank leader Element Lad, the Legionnaire tells him to thank Saturn Girl. The president asks her to name her reward, but all she wants is to rejoin the Legion.
Which she does in that last page. Okay. This is where we start talking about our general thoughts. General thoughts of our issue. Now, I mentioned once before, Eric and I don't usually talk about the issue before we record. However, you did send me a tweet,
Oh, yeah.
or a direct, or a message, and I was like, oh. So it makes me curious if that has changed since then. If maybe you've reread. So why don't you go first in this segment, in this part?
Well, so the message I sent Peter was, not a very complimentary one to this, but that, we had just, I think the day before, perhaps, we had just recorded our episode about issue 34.
Correct.
Which, if you're listening to this, you've listened to that and you know how we felt about that issue. So yeah, I was Peter, perhaps unfairly, I was in that same mindset that issue 34 put me in when I sent you that message. But I will say, I'm glad we're moving on to something else. I kind of felt it was it concluded. It was, but I didn't think it was a satisfying conclusion to the promise that we got in that first issue, or that maybe not the promise, but what could this story be? But I did like, generally speaking, how the plot circled back to Saturn Girl, the character that we started out with on this story. So that's a nice symmetry that I enjoyed. And she again gets to shine in this issue a bit more. So so I thought, we thought this was going to be a 4-character spotlight, considering the covers and the way that they started this 4-issue storyline out. But really, it was really a focus on Saturn Girl. I think, generally speaking,
by the end.
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. I think I might have alluded to that in our first chapter because I knew what the ending was.
Mm.
And I think in our conversation for the first chapter, you said something about Saturn. You said something about will there be spotlights for all the characters? And I think I might have, sort of alluded that it also could be about one of them or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
I do remember that now. Yes.
yeah, I knew that was coming in. And this issue, to be fair, does to an even lesser degree. It seems like it kept shrinking. First issue Saturn Girl, yes, definitely. Second one Chameleon Boys, yeah.
Yeah.
Third one Dream Girl, with a lot of missed opportunities. Fourth one, yes, Brainy again, not in the forefront, but there was at least one thing about Brainy that I was like, oh, okay, this is an interesting part for. Or an interesting use of Brainy, so which I'm sure we'll talk about. So yeah, that declined as it went on, and I think the story got away from Levitz by the end here too, right? Like you mentioned, a lot of exposition in those opening pages, yeah, and I was like, for them being the smartest Legionnaires that they keep saying that they're the smartest Legionnaires. I would have rather have seen them suss it out than explain it to the readers in the way they did in that opening couple pages. And I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah. Show, don't tell.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the letter column writers in a future issue almost said the same thing. This should have been a double-sized issue. You should have explored a little bit more. And Paul Levitz kind of said, I think his answer was something like, well, maybe, but I don't know if it really would have answered the issues you had. And I'm thinking, no, I think it would have.
Yeah.
So it's not as strong as a story as I think I thought it was. I think the historical value of it, in terms of being a named story for the Legion, because they have so few of them, rings stronger than, and then when you read it, you're like, oh, okay. Okay. We got Saturn Girl back. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. It's certainly no Judas Contract.
Yeah. That's for sure. It's no Great Darkness Saga. And it's it's no Eye for an Eye, and it's no Superboy Saga, and yet it's prominent, it's such a prominent, in my head at least, and maybe in a lot of, I don't know, who knows, maybe really hardcore Legion fans, the ones that can quote every first appearance and, really dig into the minutia of the Silver Age stuff, which I love, but I think maybe they, as I've read some reviews online, they don't hold this one up as highly as maybe I thought.
Okay, good. That I was afraid you were going to say the opposite, and somehow we are disconnected or not seeing something that the rest of them are. But
I'm sure it has its fans, but I think it's bordered by storylines that have more punch by the end.
Well, yeah. I mean, like you mentioned already, we just came out of basically the Censor Girl storyline, and I know we're leading up into the Superboy stuff, and so those have a lot of weight to them in terms of the characters, but also just the readership and how we feel about those situations.
Right.
And yet this is a bannered on the cover event. So it's interesting that they, I'm curious if the overall reaction, although in the letter column, Paul Levitz does state that they had a lot of feedback. In fact, he compared it to Great Darkness Saga feedback, although he doesn't quite, give us the levels between or compare the two, but he does say it was very similar to the feedback they got for that. But he doesn't really say, I mean, I guess he did respond to one of those letters, basically saying that most people were positive about the storyline. So But I was really curious if the feedback they got basically was like, well, we probably don't need to do something like this again. It didn't quite work out.
It seemed favorable when you
Yeah.
read it, like, in that future, read the letter columns from issue, whatever it is, like 40 or 41 or whatever. And I think it's the high, I think it's the context of when it was released, early
Mm-hmm.
March of 87, a year after the crisis. There was a lot going, there was energy at DC. This
Oh,
was
yeah.
energetic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and banners were a thing now, like we've talked about this before. Judas Contract, Crisis, we're coming up. Legends had banners. We're gonna, Millennium had banners. Just, it was exciting. It told you what to read, and this told you, oh, chapter 4. Then I better get chapters 3, 2, and 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's just the a little comics in general are, especially at DC, are moving. It's like a current, a river and a current that's just flowing, and we're all caught up in it. And I bet you as a kid I loved it and didn't think anything more
Oh,
than
yeah.
just, this was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Saturn Girl was awesome. Universo project, and then now that I read it with our focus and our intention for the series, okay, sure, fine, it's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on. So,
I guess that's the show.
yeah.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Oddly enough, I'm not as negative about this one as I was last issue.
Oh yeah.
For
Yeah.
some reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that one really felt like it was spinning its wheels, and this one just felt very shortcutty. There's just a lot of shortcuts to get to, and I was like, God, the stakes are just not here. Like the fight between the Legionnaires, I was like, there's no stakes there. I don't feel it's as threatening as they are making it out to seem, which makes the whole. So they call themselves the smartest Legionnaires, but Universo once again reinforces that he's calling them the most dangerous Legionnaires. And I was like, well, okay, but they constantly say things like, while these other Legionnaires are under Universal's power, they're sloppy, they're lazy, they're unfocused. Okay, well then, doesn't that shortcut the whole notion that you're the most dangerous Legionnaires then? Because you're not dealing with them at their full force. The only time I think it rings true is when Saturn Girl goes up against Universo, and then you're like, okay,
yeah,
that's why she's the most dangerous Legionnaire, or
mm-hmm.
one of them. Yeah. So that, I think there were a couple times where Levitz undercut himself.
Yep.
In that notion, and then also undercut himself with some of the Universo stuff, which I'm sure we'll get to. Just, it's like, oh.
Yeah, I think that's the most egregious issue with this 4-part storyline is his distancing of Universo for the most part. I mean, he's almost like the mustache twirling villain in the background. It's just like there was so much possibility here with this character and what he's doing here, especially to separate it from his the previous story in Adventure Comics that we talked about,
right?
A couple episodes ago, and yeah, just dropped the ball.
Yeah, and he's always, even in his first appearance, he was like that, right? We've talked about that. Universal's first appearance, he sends them to different eras of time, and we don't see him again until the end. And this is the same thing. So I was hoping we would get a little more confrontation, or we would have seen a little more of the behind the scenes manipulation. You know? We gloss over the fact that everybody fell asleep. We hear that there must be really the technology behind that must be incredible, but it's not explained.
Mm-hmm.
They make the mistaken identity thing, thinking that the president is Universo, but it's the vice president. Okay, how did that happen? How did he manage to work his way into that campaign? Because he only shows up after Desai wins in issue number 10. He's not part of his entourage until after he wins the presidency. So it's like, okay, well, how did that happen? how how did Marta Allen figure it out? Right? Like, here's where an expanded issue would have been great. Like, give us a scene where they're both digging into
Yes.
orders and chain of command things, and it all points to that to me is reinforcing that Saturn Girl is smart, because she goes to Marta Allen, which is smart, but then they use their whatever to go, oh, it doesn't go back to the president, it goes to the vice president. Create that political intrigue thing or whatever. I don't know. But that wasn't what Levitz wanted to do. So it's like, that's where I'm like, oh, see, that's the stuff that would have built up Universo without having to see him, really.
Mm-hmm.
But it would have given us a little bit more. And
yeah,
just wasn't there.
Exactly. It just wasn't there. That's a good tagline for the story.
What do you think of the cover?
Okay.
No, not a fan.
It's comparatively to the three other covers, it's okay. I think it's comparable. I don't really care for just another fight scene cover, but
Mm-hmm.
I do like how Universo is in the background, how his face hovering there, manipulating things behind the curtain, so to speak. So that's kind of nice, but we already know this. So, and the previous issue, the third one, right? Yeah, we've got him really menacingly celebrating his defeat of Wildfire and Tellus on the cover. That's really cool. But then we get this, and he's just like this image in the background. But I will say, I really like how Lytle has or how he portrays the pain and the anguish on Saturn Girl's face. He did a really good job on depicting what she might be going through in this fantasy sequence that we see, because this is not indicative of what actually happens in the issue. So, but then he does these weird body contortionist things. It's almost with Saturn Girl's arm and hand there on the cover. It's like that. He usually is really careful about that kind of stuff, and it just it's a bit of a misfire for me.
You don't think that scene takes place in the issue? I mean, it's a dramatization of it. But...
Yeah, I meant, but yeah,
okay.
I meant literally. There's, she's not down on the floor like this and almost being attacked, and
not with them anyway.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. As I was looking at it, I felt the same way too. It's like, for a finale issue, it doesn't feel very ending like, right?
Yeah.
But then
there's no big finale-esque quality to it. It's just, here's a scene from the issue.
Right. But then you brought this up earlier, then I thought about Judas Contract Part 4 and the cover to that. And it's a little more it's also sort of it's also detailing a scene in the book. Titans on one side, Deathstroke and the Hive on the other, Terra in the middle. And it's really just the Titans. You almost, if there was a word balloon, they would be like, Terra, what are you doing? Yeah. And Terra sort of turning, right? And I was like, kind of has the same flavor a little bit.
I could see that. Yeah, sure.
But to your point, yes, that was my initial thing too. I was like, well, I like it. I think it's crafted fine. And I do like Brainiac actually on there. I like Brainiac 5, his hands right around the force field buckle, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. Classic Brainy. Yeah.
Yeah. His face, he almost looks like he's the computer wheels are just spinning in his head. Yeah, as a whole, I mean, I do like the 4 covers as a whole. Just when you look at them together, it's like, they exist together. That storyline means something together. I do appreciate that, and it all has to do with the design of it. So whoever actually came up with the design of it, whether it was Lytle or someone else, and they said, all right, we're going to do this little vertical banner thing, and we're going to spotlight these. Like, That's awesome. I do love all
Oh yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Um, and I know when I see it in back issue bins, like I did with the issues that I sent to Troy in Canada, who sent us a letter for this episode about this thing. Um, it's instantly recognizable. You start flipping through and it's like, whoa, Universal Project, and that's why I pulled the issues, because I was like, or I got them off eBay or whatever it was. So yeah, totally fine.
I can't remember if I talked about this in the first episode for this, but yeah, if I did, I apologize to the listeners and to Peter for regurgitating this. But to your point, when I was going back and trying to buy all of these Volume 3 Legion back issues, because like I said, I had dropped off and I was getting the Tales issues, and then at some point I'm like, oh, I don't want the Tales. I actually want the original issues. So then I was going back and through those, and I remember I still have the distinct memory of looking through this long box at my local comic shop back in. This would have been, well, had to have been after 87, because that's when the story was. So it would have been in the late 80s sometime when I was doing this, and I remember pulling the Universal Project issues out. I'm like, oh wow, this looks really cool.
See, yeah, it works.
Yeah. And then last night when I was going through my notes again, I took all 4 issues because I wanted to just to compare. I wanted to see what was there some sort of connection here that I hadn't noticed before. And so I put all 4 issues side by side, 1, 2, 3, 4, to see how it laid out. I put them, 1, 2 at the top and 3, 4 on the bottom in more of a square shape to see if there's anything like that. And no, I didn't really see anything like that. But it's still the covers are distinctive, and that I guess that's the point, right?
Right. Actually, brings to mind when they introduced Justice League Detroit after that annual. There were 4 issues that had almost the same design sense, where there was a main image, and the main image focused on one of the 4 new characters. But on the side were 2 headshots of the older established characters.
Right.
Of Aquaman and Martian Manhunter, or maybe it was just 1. No, I think it was 2. I can't remember. But then when you put them all together in a block, it formed one giant Chuck Patton image, which was also very cool.
I was, obviously they don't, but I was hoping that there was some little thing that would connect each issue to the other, and I didn't see anything.
Yeah, I will give this for the cover. I wrote this down after like a second or third read. It does create the premise of the issue. How will Saturn Girl handle this situation? How does Saturn Girl handle the situation? Whether it's the 2 strongest Legionnaires, or whether they're just a substitution for the overwhelming odds of just one Legionnaire against Universo and her teammates. So I did like that.
That's a good point.
Okay, so for the issue itself, I think we started every chapter like this. Let's talk a little bit about the brainy stuff, as little as it is, but as a way to maybe talk about some other things. So it seemed like every chapter there came a moment where you were like, oh, right, here it is. Here's Levitt saying this is this particular character's chapter. And we get that right on page 3, right? I feel like Brainy's like, he says, that means, let's see, if it's Universo, he knows we're coming since the incident at the spaceport last issue when we reached Earth. That means we need to think this through carefully. It's like Levitt's, okay, this is how we have to handle this situation. Does it play out that way? Yes, no, maybe so, right? Not in anything I think that's satisfying.
No, exactly. It's like when I mentioned in the synopsis, he's like, okay, let's start my backup plan, but we don't even know what the hell that is, and we don't really. I guess if the confrontation at Metropolis University is that backup plan, okay, I guess we get that, but the defensive nature of that conflict suggests that this to me suggests that that was not really part of the backup plan. That was the oh crap, we had to run. So now he's come up with this alternate plan.
Right. Because initially it's to go after Desai carefully, right? So find a way to get to the presidential palace, and then he says once they realize that it's not Desai, once the Legionnaires attack, he says, okay, institute my backup plan before our glassy-eyed friends attack. Saturn Girl says, all right, but leave me out of it. I have a plan of my own to try. I'll come back to that in a second. Mm-hmm. So their plan is to get the heck out of there. Okay, so they get the heck out of there to institute this backup plan, which is to go to Brainy's original laboratory at Metropolis U, where he created the original computer.
Right.
And he says, I never thought I'd have to do that again with my life depending on it. And they're all like, well, tell us how to help. I'm like, whoa. No, don't be making computers again. That's
right?
Not going to help you, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of indicative of, we're going to repeat ourselves, I think, in different ways, but there's so much weight behind that comment. And we do see a computer-like robot that he employs, but
baby computer.
But it's totally ignored is not the right word, but it's totally glossed over in favor of basically pushing the plot forward and seeing the Legionnaires fight each other.
And it's not the original plan. It's not the original backup plan. Like maybe getting to the lab is part of the plan, but then because Saturn Girl says later, when after her conversation with Marta Allen, she decides to go back to the palace, right? And then she even says, where is that? Here it is. I have a feeling Brainy changed the plan and decided not to use the time to build an escape ship.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So I guess his plan was to go to the lab.
To run,
but the other Legionnaires were heading his way, so he had to formulate a backup plan right away, which was the attack and the assault and the defense or offense or whatever. Okay. Right? So that's... go ahead.
So... four smartest Legionnaires, Brainiac 5 among them, and his brilliant backup plan is to escape, run away. I guess it worked for King Arthur in that movie. Sorry.
That's how I feel about Saturn Girl's situation too. I mean, you could look at it both ways. You could go when Saturn Girl says, "Okay, go do your plan, but I'm not going to be part of it." Well, that's not the smart move. Isn't the smart move to go with the plan?
Yeah.
But then my secondary thing is, okay, maybe there's an instinct kicking in. There's something kicking in that she's like, I got to do something else. But I wish Levitz would have hit that.
Yeah.
Show us why why these characters. A lot of this stuff seems to happen haphazardly, like, a feather on a wind, and to talk to Forrest Gump, it just, no, I see the choices that they're making. Tell us that that's why. Show us that, okay, here it is. It's not just that she's like, we have to make the assumption later that, oh, that's why she did that, right? Rather than her going, wait, I have an idea. I don't know. Maybe it's the dialogue. Maybe it's just the dialogue doesn't make it make sense. I don't know.
Well, if you consider they only have gotten this far because they've worked together. And then suddenly when they're under pressure by their own, glassy-eyed teammates, she decides, oh, I'm going to run off on my own to do this. It's just that through line of them coming together in their first two issues and then working together in the third, and now here, it's like Levitz is totally ignoring his own premise that he set up here. I just a lot of it just doesn't make sense to me.
God, I hate to rewrite. I hate that. Yeah. But again, if it was an oversized issue, maybe Saturn Girl would have also shown up in the lab with them, and then the Legionnaires attack, and then we get this one, Brainy moment that speaks to Brainy, which we'll talk
Yes.
about. And then maybe in the middle of that, suddenly things start, they start to calculate, and they realize, okay, we need an option. And then Saturn Girl goes, you know what? I have it. Like they're assessing the situation, which she's doing. I get it. That is what she's doing. She's going with her gut. Great. That's what you're supposed to do. It was just clunky. The A to B to C to D to E to F, was just clunky. It was just clunky for me. So do you want to talk about Brainy's moment, or just the during the fight scene in the lab, like the one sort of standout for Brainy in this issue? I thought.
Yeah. So is it the use of his force field technology? Yeah. So he says, "You've seen me." He's talking to his fellow Legionnaires who are after him. You've seen me use my force shield. To defend the Legion or buy me time to use my computer mind. But the same technology can do more. And then with some stuff that they put on their arms and hands, Dream Girl, in fact, is the first person shown using it. She uses it to basically protect and attack. So protect themselves and then attack some of the Legionnaires, as I described earlier. And then we get that nice 2-page spread on 16 and 17, which that was a nice, while crowded, was a nice fight scene between the Legionnaires, and we get to see Brainiac offensively attacking someone using his technology, which is not something we normally see. In fact, I don't even remember any other time where he's done something like this.
I can't say that with certainty because I just haven't read everything, but it's in the stuff we read, it feels new. And certainly for the story, it's Levitz going, here's a little twist of his abilities or his technology, and it was great. And it okay, here's a good example of why they are the most dangerous Legionnaires. Not only that Brainy can create this and make it work, that's kind of a given, but that he acknowledges that Dream Girl would be able to use it as well.
Yeah, right? Which is a nice callback to some issues before the Universo project, where she's using his belt.
Right.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, and you got the double page spread, as you mentioned. I thought that was at least worthy of a finale. It was nice to see artistically something a little different. Even if it's the art in general in places, the execution of the art in didn't help some of the story stuff. There was a lot of confusing things here and there, but at least that I was like, oh, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good chapter 4 piece of artwork. But I like that. I thought that was fun. The art doesn't give the weight I think it deserves.
Yes.
I would have loved to seen someone. I would just an explosion of power, or like he's standing there with the force, and then suddenly he's got this. Even the mechanics of the arm look not futuristic, and maybe it's because we're reading this 30-some years later. But it feels like junkyard, like somebody created it in a junkyard rather than in the 30th century. Anyway, but then they start to attack, and it works. Like the force, the gauntlets work, and they work powerfully, and who knows what the science is behind it, but it doesn't matter. It's fun. They get to hold off the entire or part of the Legion, showing why Brainy's technology is so powerful and now dangerous.
Yeah. That I'm really curious if will we see Brainiac 5 employing this again, or in a different but offensively against enemies. So but that's not what he's known for. So I kind of doubt it.
Right. That's where the stakes are. That's where you feel those stakes of the story, that they have to push themselves, and it probably taxes him some. I feel like the only reason Brainy was able to do it because he was in the middle of a laboratory. So if he's out fighting on his own,
oh sure, yeah,
he doesn't have all those resources.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, let alone the So does he just have a proto computo robot just in a closet somewhere?
I
Is
love
that
that. I was like, baby computos. That's awesome. little Tonka toys going
and
all over the place.
so did you take this as these were prototypes of what became computo, or did he make these later to, you know, because he's always trying to improve upon the things that he failed at.
That's why he's the most dangerous.
Well, he has almost destroyed the earth a couple times because of
I
his
mean,
creations.
in this case, Universo's right. He's a danger.
That's true. That's
So
true.
who knows? That's a story waiting to be told. And that's really it in terms of Brainy. I felt,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
he gets a nod, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I wonder if Levitz was, as he was doing this, he did that first issue really focusing on Saturn Girl, and we got the banner covers and all that stuff. He's like, oh, I really need to spotlight these guys. How am I going to do that?
Yeah. And I think we've given him a lot of credit over the years that we've been doing this podcast and over the many issues of, he's a very smart, calculated, I would even say clinical kind of writer, and usually doesn't let that stuff slip away. But in these past 2 issues, definitely some things have been, I don't know, maybe we lay it at Karen Berger's feet that,
yeah, could be.
Or maybe there was some rewriting, I don't know. I haven't dug into any kind of backstory about any of this.
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, we do get the other 3 characters do get a bit of due as well in this issue. So in that sense, where it's the final chapter of this, and we've talked a lot about the focus on the individuals. Not Dream Girl, actually, besides the fact that she's using the technology that Brainiac 5 has, she actually is using her powers.
Sure,
she predicts the attack that happens just seconds later, which I don't know why we didn't see that in the last issue, with her doing those kinds of things, right? And then Chameleon Boy just, he's doing his usual shape-shifting stuff, but while he's taking a back seat in terms of the spotlight in this issue, he does a lot of stuff in here, especially in the fight scenes. So, and we get to see some, somewhat interesting alien forms that he takes. So,
right.
And then we get the end with Saturn Girl. So,
right. Yeah, at least with Chameleon Boy, it shows that what a scrapper he can be if he wants to be.
I like that.
I thought him hauling off and clobbering time on Element Lad with the thing arm, just let me number one, let me just take out the leader and the strong one of the more powerful members of Legionnaires.
Right.
With no subtlety. He doesn't become a jellyfish, he doesn't become a python. He's just gonna knock him in the gut.
That's
okay.
Right. That's right. And to your point, demonstrating, he can be really dangerous when his back's against the wall.
Yeah.
And but calculating, because that's who Chameleon Boy is.
Right. Just
taking out Element Lad like you described it. Yeah, that's that. Now I'm back to complimenting.
Yeah. We play this game, right? All the stuff we're pulling here and there, but we have to, otherwise we'll be miserable probably talking about this issue. So I'm gonna jump. All right, let's go to Saturn Girl. She's the point of the story. She's the point of the issue. Point of the whole story. I want to go all the way to the end.
Yes.
Saturn Girl says, "May I return to active membership where I belong." Where
that end? Okay, gotcha.
I'm going to the end. Where did that come from? Where did that come from?
The where I belong part?
Yeah, where did that come from? Did that feel like that came out of where did that come from?
I had the same reaction, I guess, but I was also in the back of my head, hasn't she made some comments over the other appearances before she gets kidnapped? About, I get the sense that she has been feeling restless.
Maybe.
I have to go back and read those.
Yeah, and I wrote in my notes, and of course I didn't do it, but I wanted to go back to issue 11, I think it is. That was the spotlight on the Trinity when they
Mm-hmm.
went to go visit the people that they stopped, um, who were going to try to assassinate or kidnap R.J. Brand, and they went to that prison and
Right.
they have a conversation. Okay, you know which one I'm talking about. So I wanted to go back because I wanted to read that again or just look at it and just get a sense of here's why they think the Legion has grown, why the Trinity is no longer needed, why they need to be this active elder states people, which ultimately, outside of a few things, we never really got that. We never really got them in that role.
Right.
Maybe with Saturn Girl saying, "Hey, you have to put Sensor Girl in here." That feels like that's part of that role.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, not much else. But I swear, in that issue or before it, that Garth was the one that was saying things like, we're going to juggle being parents and Legionnaires, and Saturn Girl was in the background. Because I remember making this comment on one of the episodes. She's like, okay, yes, dear, whatever you say, dear. Like, sort of thinking, no, that's not the way it's going to be. She knew they had to go be a family. Then they go and get their other twin. They go through the whole time trapper thing. Then they go and get their other twin. And it's like, okay, they're even more of a family.
Mm-hmm.
But she wants to go back and be a Legionnaire?
Yeah. I agree. It doesn't seem to be on the page as to her motivations.
Yeah.
So that begs the question, of course, why does Levitz want to bring her back into the fold? We already have a telepath.
Mm.
Is he done with Tellus? He's not connecting with that character, but he now has this, I don't know, he's reconnected with Saturn Girl, or he feels rejuvenated in terms of the character. I don't know. It's a bizarre situation here.
Well, that's interesting that you said that now, because I wrote in my notes, Levitz has now, this is the third female character Levitz has brought back.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not counting Shrinking Violet because that happened before the Baxter run. But if you get Lightning Lass came out of Eye for an Eye, and certainly opens up a whole bunch of opportunities. Plus, she was gone from the book for like a year before that. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Then Sensor Girl, Projectra, comes back. Totally valid. That makes sense. She's a whole new character practically. Okay, great. And now we get Universal Project, and he brings Saturn Girl back. And that made, now that you said that, I wasn't thinking about the potential of what comes after. I was trying to look backwards and go, well, that seems so out of character from everything we've seen. And to be fair, I haven't done the research on that. But it does make me think, oh, how many letters have we read? Not many, but we've read that they miss the founders.
Yeah.
Magnetic Kid is a poor Cosmic Boy substitute. Okay. So you bring Saturn Girl in. I don't necessarily know what's coming up that she needs to be used for. I know of one sort of story, but I don't remember how she was used. And you're right. Maybe he doesn't like Tellus. Maybe Lido liked Tellus, and maybe Levitz didn't like Tellus, which is unfortunate because I like Tellus. But yeah, so I didn't think about that. I didn't think about the after. So
well, also, I guess on that, in terms of what's coming, don't we have an anniversary type situation, type issue coming up? It might be further down the road than I'm thinking, but obviously you would need to get the founders back into it, but they don't necessarily need to be members of, active members of the Legion for that story. So
right.
Yeah, I guess that doesn't really pan out in the way I was thinking.
Yeah, we have several anniversaries coming up. The 30th anniversary of the Legion is as you're looking at what year did I say this was? 1987, right? This is early 1987. They first appeared in 1958, so we're getting a 30th anniversary coming up. they make we have issue 50 coming up. I mean, that you could just look at that as an anniversary unto itself, but that's more sort of title related.
Mm-hmm.
And then issue 45, which might be the one you're thinking of, that feels like that's the one where they celebrate. Yeah, they're celebrating 30 years of the Legion of Superheroes in issue 45.
Okay, yeah.
Weird. With a issue 50 hanging, just around the
Right,
corner.
right.
So, and that is a focus on Lightning Lad. So, I guess I don't know. I think that's the next issue feels like one of those issues that we tend to like, where it's just kind of like a grand epilogue of what just happened and
Mm-hmm.
little vignettes. So maybe we'll get a little. I hope we get into Saturn Girl just a tiny bit more, because otherwise I'm like, I don't know. So maybe what I'll do is before next episode, where we cover an issue, I'll go back and read that issue 10 or 11 again, because I do want to look at that journey that they had as a family and as the Trinity, and see if Levitz was dropping the seeds and we just missed it or whatever. But I guess we'll have to wait until next issue, because I read that panel and I was like, what? Who? What? Why? You're a mom. You're a mom twice now. Go be a mom.
Yeah, with
so bad.
With a child who was formerly Validus, so I'm sure there's a lot of issues that they have to help the kid work through.
Sure.
So, not to mention, if you are a parent of a child and suddenly you get, and I have some experience with this, suddenly you get another child, or actually two in our case, out of the blue. That is a huge. I don't know how much time has passed really here between when they finally got. Do they call him Validus?
Yeah, they haven't called him anything just yet.
Have they? Okay.
Or did they call him Val? I don't remember.
I was thinking Val, but if I were them, I would want to rename him anyway. But yeah, I mean that is a huge impact to your life to suddenly have this other human being, or sorry, not to be specious, but another person to take care of. So it's like, what are you running from something? Give us more. I want to know more about this motivation.
Yeah. The only other thing I could say in her defense, though, and of course the Legionnaire members are going to hip hip hooray every so loudly as they do on the final page.
Except Tellus, poor Tellus in the corner here.
And Quizlet is nowhere to be seen in this issue.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. I will give her this, though. She is probably riding a high, because not only does she save the day in this story, without her, we would not have gotten Censor Girl. And as confusing as a time as that was with the other Legionnaires, the outcome to get Princess Projector, I mean, it's because of her that she's even on the team. So I don't know if the other Legionnaires might be thinking, like, especially after the whole Censor Girl stuff, like, wow, I'm glad Saturn Girl pushed for her, or like Element Lad, of all people, should be like, okay, I understand your reasons now, and that's great, and that's why you are the mother of the Legion.
Right.
And here now you physically have proven with your powers and your smarts that you are the mother of the Legion. So
let's have an election and elect her again.
The election's coming up next issue.
That's right.
Yeah. Spoiler, she doesn't win. But it'd be interesting to see if they I don't remember that story, so it'd be interesting to see if she's one of the running now, especially given this issue. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So okay, now we can go back. Let's go back and I just the
dramatic scene. Yeah. No, that's good.
Okay, where do you want to go with Saturn Girl? You just want to talk about the big confrontation?
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, the rest of it's just moving the scene to that.
Correct.
So, but yeah, it was a nice. I have to say I wasn't all that surprised, obviously, because of the cover, but it was a nice, surprise on page 20 when we should talk about Universo too, because this guy. he says to her when she arrives to confront him, she says to him, I broke your control over her, Marta Allen, and she guessed that you were Vid Gupta. Now I'll break you. I mean, that's really 80s action hero type dialogue for Saturn Girl.
Mm-hmm.
She's taken off her coat. She's ready. I mean, it's almost like she's ready to just throw down with this guy, physically in the way that she's carrying herself. But then, he does, oh my God, Universo does this like movie villain type thing. May I introduce you to my bodyguards, Mon-El and Ultra Boy? I'm sorry. This guy is so comical. But could you imagine you're Saturn Girl, telepathy, very powerful in that way, but then you are suddenly confronted with the two most powerful, or the two strongest Legionnaires, and they're under the sway of somebody else. Obviously she deals with it, as we'll talk about, but in that split second, it'd be like, oh my God, how am I going to handle these guys? Right. Yeah. So
there's something that Troy mentioned. So Troy was the winner of the Universal Project issues that the extra issues that I had and sent off to Canada, where Troy is. One part of Troy's email talks about Saturn Girl as the angry Ice Maiden, and says, it makes so much sense that Universal's plot makes Saturn Girl so angry. He crosses the very lines that she has taken great pains not to cross, and he forces her to cross lines that she would rather not. Plus, who would be more angered by the dismantling, discrediting, erasure of the Legion than one of its founders? So I almost feel like that's an answer to what you just said, right? All of that, plus what she did in that first chapter to break her fellow Legionnaires, the three of them, and we got those really great mindscapes. Mm-hmm. She has, there you go again, smartest, dangerous. She has learned and put to practice what she had to go through in that first chapter with these two. She can't fight them physically. There's just no way, right? Mm-hmm. So the only thing she can rely on is her mental powers and what she learned. Plus she's angry, and it comes out, right? Like, I feel like it comes out in the drawing of it. She suddenly switches to her Saturn Girl look again, and all the other chapters. It's like, yeah, this is the beast you created, Universo, because of what you did.
Yeah. I thought what Troy said was spot on. I remember last episode when we were talking about the last issue or the previous issue, I made a specific comment about how angry she was when they were leaving the spaceport, or I can't remember what the scene was, but it seemed a bit out of character to me at that time. But given what Troy said here, it's like, oh yeah, I missed this. This is the perfect reasoning for why she is reacting the way she is. Mm. And that's not necessarily depicted specifically on the page. You just kind of have to suss it out based on what is happening to the character. So that's a really good observation, Troy.
Yeah. I'm glad we got to see Vid Gupta again, even though the character is in shadow. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. I just felt like I wanted to see that, because it's just another layer of the intrigue and the mystique. And if we would just gotten Universo, then it's just Universo standing in the presidential palace, which is what he does. But no, he created this identity, or stole it, or whatever. There's some backstory there that I would have loved to have seen, but at least we got it a little bit. And I like that page 20, the opening shot of this confrontation. I feel like it could have gone on a few more pages for me, and this is where we would have, as you said, this is where we would have figured out. Saturn Girl would have revealed her plan, or at least how she figured it out, like even deeper. How Marta figured it out, and and their Universo could have been, thinking, oh yeah, I guess I didn't do that, and I didn't do that. I mean, he's not a smart villain. He's just not.
No, he's not.
He's not. He's so rushes to the end point and then just trips and or just he rushes to like 10 feet away from the finish line and then thinks that the race cuts to the left and then just starts running in a circle 10 feet in front of the finishing line. Because he even said, like we've pointed out, why isn't he killing these people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And earlier in the issue, he's like, all right, Desai, I'm going to tell you how to kill him. Now? Why'd you wait till now? You had him on the prison planet. You could have killed him there. You could have dropped something on them or whatever. Make it look like an accident. Now you want to kill him just because they're 10 feet in front of you? That don't make any sense.
Yeah, he says, when after Saturn Girl says, now I'll break you, he says, I'll admit you've gotten closer to me than I dreamed possible. This guy has no imagination. So this is my major problem with this story. Given how dumb he appears to be, how did he pull this off in the first place? The prison plant, getting that all set up. I mean, it's one thing to hypnotize someone and take them over. And I guess, that's his saving grace as a villain in this story, is that he was able, he took over the presidency, the science police, other people. Sure. But he doesn't appear to control everybody that's within his orbit.
Right.
So there's got to be some machinations going on, some influence. And I just can't see the guy pulling any of this off. He's just too dumb.
You said it in another episode. He's not a closer. He's just not a closer. So we got an email from Al Sedano talking about Universal's plan. I love it because it speaks to what you're saying here. Universo and his strange plan to take over the Earth and the United Planets. Here's the thing. It's all pointless because he already did it. He was the vice president and the president was under his mental control. He obviously had some high-ranking officials under his control as well. So what's the point in doing everything we see him doing now? I don't think he wants to be the ruler. I think he just wants the praise. He wants everyone to know how awesome and amazing Universo is.
Oh, God, yeah.
That's why he didn't just hire a sniper to take out Saturn Girl from a mile away. Any fool could do that. Starfinger could do it by accident in battle, but that would just be luck. What takes skill is being able to mentally control the most famous telepath in the galaxy. Mm-hmm. That's why he killed Rond. I don't think he was ever doing this for his son, even though that's what he said. He was doing it so Rond would say, "You are the greatest and most amazing man in the universe, father." But since Rond is immune to his power, he had to be disposed of. What Universo truly wants is, after he's defeated, for Timberwolf to be interviewed by Marala Tau one day and be asked, who are the most dangerous foes the Legion has faced? And Timberwolf's answer would be, well, there's Universo, of course. It's all about ego, even though he loses.
I can totally agree with that. I mean, the ego on this character in this issue alone could easily explain that take on it. I guess my problem is that we don't see that. Yeah. We don't see him wanting that. I totally buy it, Al. That is exactly what Universo would like, but we're not seeing that on the page, and that's my problem here.
Yeah.
But I agree with what Al said. It's like he already won. So what is he doing? Why is he doing this? Yeah. I don't. There's not enough here from the Universo perspective, and that's where I'm sure we talked about this in a previous episode. That's what I wanted. I wanted to get into the psychology of the character a little bit, maybe some of the motivations besides I just want to take over things, and again,
right.
And really kind of get into the nitty gritty of what makes Universo tick, and we get nothing for that.
And Levitt still could have told the story he wanted to tell. He still could have told Saturn Girl's story. He still could have told the 4 most dangerous Legionnaires story. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So Troy has a kind of counter to what you just said. He says, to be honest, I think there's only one necessary Universo scene in all of these issues, and that's the very final one. Mm-hmm. All the other panels and pages given over to him could have been put to better and more compelling use. Let's see here. I know it's weird to say that the Universo project might need less Universo,
Yeah.
but less could have been more.
Mm-hmm.
0 appearances of the grand puppeteer in the first 3 issues could have served as a kind of big build-up for his climactic appearance in the 4th. What do you think of that?
Yes, I totally agree with that. If we get nothing of Universo besides look at me, I've defeated the Legion. I have no enemies. I'm perfect and wonderful and whatnot. That's exactly what we should have got is a mystery, for us too as the reader, not just the characters. And we talked about that in some of the other episodes too.
Right.
That I think that would have worked much more effectively. But I can also see we already went through a huge mystery with Censor Girl not too long ago. So I could see Paul and company not wanting to repeat themselves in that way.
Yeah. I wrote here in my notes, Saturn Girl goes full Saturn Girl. And she takes, and you almost get the feeling that, even though it's spread out over 2 pages, where Universal's like, what did you do? These are the 2 most powerful men in the universe. And you looked at them and they fell down. Like it almost might have happened instant or over a few seconds.
Yep.
Of boxing them in. She makes the statement, Universo's hypnosis is based on the conscious mind. I have your subconsciousness in my hands. I like that last panel.
Mm-hmm.
And just the look on her face, right? Her eyes are not very open. They're just kind of, and they're not even like concentrating. They're just there. She's in control of the situation, and she doesn't need any more emotion in that. It's just sort of like, I love it.
It's almost like she's relaxed.
Yeah, because she is who she is.
Well, that, and this is all happening in the mindscape, and so there's it's like, what is it, id, ego, and superego. This is all superego.
And she takes down Mon-El, she takes down Ultra Boy. Universal surprised, and then we get their confrontation, which that's not gonna be anything. Did you take a bump on this at all? So, when she defeats her teammates and they go down, she's like, Universo says, I swear by Oa, I shall be her conqueror, because that was her comment. He's still the Green Lantern in a weird way. That was just a weird callback. He says it earlier too, where he's like, by the Guardians or something.
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. How in the Guardian's name? See, it's those kinds of things. Like, that is such a complex character aspect that is just thrown away in these little bits of dialogue.
Right, like it means something now because we've gotten that revelation that he was a former Green Lantern, a bunch of years back. But Levitt's just sort of teasing it and through the exclamations, and it's like, oh, come on, Levitt. Yeah, I agree.
And then he follows up with, no mind in this galaxy can resist my hypnotic power. Well, she already has. See, this is why I come back to how dumb this guy is. He's totally oblivious to his own failures, his own frailty as a character. Sorry.
Ego. It's ego. It's his ego, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's why he walks around with those ears. He doesn't care.
Well, come on. If you had pointed ears like that, would you just walk around?
I'd be a villain too, I guess.
Wait. No, it's the beard, not the ears, remember?
Oh, that's right.
He's got both.
That's right.
He's Mirror Universe Spock. He's
got the fingerless gloves. It's just all waiting. And he's in purple and green, which is, that old Marvel color standby. If you wear purple and green, you're automatically a villain.
That's right. But that page, what is that? That's 23. That whole scene with, of course she's going to defeat him. We know that, but I really enjoyed that whole scene. And, she's powerful. Yes. But so is he. And, he did he did have control over her at previously, and it looks like it's possible that it could happen again. I just really like that. There's that we start to see as his control over her starts to increase, or at least his power. I'm not quite sure how to interpret his ability here, but we start to see these panels on this page, and then on the next page, two of these white over a colored background. That sliver panel there, Peter, on page 23.
Yep.
Where we get to see kind of like what's happening internally within their mind's eye, perhaps. I thought that was a nice artistic touch.
Right. And it continues on the other page too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. These pages made up for, some, I was in it. Like here's, the weight returned.
Yeah.
The stakes kind of returned. It's the grand scene, Saturn girl against the world, whatever. Yeah, it worked. It worked for me. It even if we might have expected what the outcome was going to be.
Well, and yeah, you turn the page, and from page 23, it looks like, oh, all right, let me talk about this. So that very final panel on that page, she has dropped to her knees because of his power. And you will call me master, he says, and he grabs her face, her chin, and says, say it. And that scene of them, or that panel of them with him dominant over her in that way, that's really disturbing.
Yeah.
And then her angry, explosive go to hell on the next page. That was a nice page turn.
It's tough. She's putting up her dukes. She gets a couple, like, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4 times. She hits him 4 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not something you normally see Saturn Girl doing. So that
right.
that was very nice. That was, this whole thing, especially with these 4 characters, we get to see them doing things and maybe even saying things in some cases where they would normally not do or say those things, because they're in this situation, they're under pressure, they're being pushed to their limits and beyond. And so that's a nice touch that we get to see that play out here.
Yeah, I wrote some things there. Universal says on page 11 earlier, I have grown wiser. Really? Have you?
Yeah. Yeah, I noted that too. Good Lord, man. Learn something.
He calls them on page 10. He calls them the most dangerous, not the smartest. There's that line again. We talked about this last issue in relation to something Paul Levitt said in a letter column, where he says, imprisoning them among a world of non-entities should have broken their spirit. I was like, I don't get that.
Yeah.
First of all, they weren't non-entities. They were other superheroes on that planet. So what? I didn't get that. I don't know what Levis is trying to say on that. And he talks about it in a letter column later, and it still doesn't make sense.
I agree. I touched on that too. And it's like, that makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah. So I'm missing something there. Maybe somebody listening will
see. If you did something like that, I would rewriting things. I would approach it as you are never a Legionnaire, and all you are is this lowly domestic person, and that's all your life is your husband and your kids. And not that those things are lowly, or I'm not trying to disparage anything. I am a husband. I have kids. So, but it's just like you remove, if your point was to place them among non-entities and break their spirit somehow, then you do exactly like you said, you don't put them on a planet with a bunch of other people like that.
Right.
You put them with the non-entities, in a I think a better constructed illusion than what he did there. It's almost like he has a subconscious compulsion to defeat himself. Yeah. And maybe for the reason that Al brought up.
Right. Which is not unheard of for villains.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a number of Batman villains that we can name off like that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe, to go back to my thing about what was Saturn Girl's motivation to get back on the team, maybe it's just this adventure that she met other superheroes, that she was able to have this thing with three other friends of hers, other Legionnaires that she's been in the Legion with for a long time. She, they're on the hunt, they're on the chase, they're outlaws, and then she wins the day, and then she's like, oh yeah, that's why I don't want to be a soccer mom. I want to be a Legionnaire,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
she woke herself up in a way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, to go back to the whole everybody's falling asleep and then they wake up, and
Yeah.
Forgotten Hero now becomes, were there ever, I don't know if there was anything that forgot the whole forgotten thing. She forgot what it was like to be a Legionnaire.
Yeah.
It could
Yeah.
work.
I also thought, I don't believe this at all, but that maybe she's coming, her motivation for coming back is that, well, you guys just kind of screwed this up. I think I should be around to make sure that you're cleaning your room and brushing your teeth before
Yeah.
bedtime.
Yeah. Oh, Element Lad, you were this last year of Element Lad's leadership has not been all that good. So,
There's a change in leadership coming, Peter.
oh yeah. Okay, Eric, why don't we jump to some secondary thoughts? What do you have left over that you want to throw out there?
I think I just have, yeah, just one more thing. We were just talking about Sensor Girl a little bit, and there's that scene where Saturn Girl defeats Universo, right? And then Sensor Girl says, and I think it's the only dialogue that she has in here. I mean, there's not a lot of dialogue from the other Legionnaires, other than the fight scenes. But she says, well, Timberwolf says, what happened? I feel weird, which seems like something totally that Timberwolf would say. But then Saturn Girl or Sensor Girl, there's too many SG things in here. We have been used. She immediately knows. She sees. She's already sensed it, and she doesn't. There's not even. She doesn't. It doesn't have to be explained to her. She just knows this. I love that little bit that they threw in here for her.
Mm-hmm.
It would totally make sense that she would have seen through this whole universal plot and whatnot. But like I said before, we just got off of a huge Sensor Girl storyline, so you don't want to use that character that much again. So I totally get that. Right. But I love the nod to her abilities in that one bit of dialogue.
That brings to mind what you just said about they kind of gloss over the idea that Cam says, if everybody fell asleep at the same time, there would have been accidents. Things would have happened.
Yes.
I know that's such a small component of the story, but that to me is fascinating because it speaks to Universo's prowess. It speaks to what he's able to do. Like, how did that happen? I want to know.
See, exactly. It's those inconsistencies that's just driving me crazy with this character. It's like he has to have some ability. He has to have some forethought, and yet he, standing there spouting dialogue about thou wilt bow down before me.
Yeah. I had one notion about, okay, so to go back to what we were saying about did the story undercut why they are the smartest Legionnaires? As they go back to Earth and they figured out everything that's going on and they learn information from that science police officer and they say, okay, we got to go after Desai. Universo is Desai. But that's what he did the first time. Wouldn't the smart thing be to say, okay, let's go after Desai? Would he do that again?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that just from the jump, wouldn't they say, okay, that's what he probably wants us to think. So let's go after Desai to just show that that is not Universe. Like I think I would have appreciated that more.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would have said, great, we're right. Now what do we do?
Yeah. And again, another opportunity for Detective Chameleon Boy to use that skill, right?
Yeah. How does Desai get to keep his job as president? after admitting that he's been under the whammy jammy for the. I mean, this is going back
Mm-hmm.
all the way to the election. You know, how does he get to keep? How is there no doubt cast on it? You know, it's rigged. It was rigged.
Yes, especially considering looking at this through the lens of 2016 or 2016 and
Mm-hmm.
2020 for that matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the pushback of the citizenry. You would think, but maybe no, maybe 31st century folks are, I don't know, different.
I don't know. I mean, think of the whole UP, the whole United
Yeah,
Planets. Should it be
yeah.
like, okay, there's a vote of no confidence here? You know, you shut Earth down. You made all this stuff happen. Like,
Well,
once
and
again, a villain overtook your planet. Why are you part of the United Planets? Just because
let
you're the
a
mother world?
let alone be the seat of leadership,
Yeah.
for the entire thing, right?
Oh
It's
my
like you
God.
all the bad stuff happens to your planet. Maybe we should put the capital on Rimbor or something.
Ay, ay, ay. In the letter column in this issue, Paul teases that we never really saw Ron's body.
Mm-hmm.
There was no mention of Ron, at least in this last chapter. I don't know. I can't remember if we've seen anything prior to that. And then I love, did you catch first of all, the Captain America Easter egg, right? Did you see that on
Th-
page 4?
yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Let me just double check here. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Okay. Um, did you catch the nod? I mean, I don't know how frequent this has been played out throughout Legion comics, but when I read it, I went, "Wait, I know that. I know that concept or that idea." So I went in my Google Docs and I did a search. It took me a little while because it's under a different name. So on page 6 at the Presidential Palace, there's that statue, the nameless
I
Starman statue.
was going to ask you about that.
That goes back all the way to the very first appearance of the Legion, Adventure Comics 247. It was one of the tests that Superboy had where there was a statue, but it was called the Unknown Spaceman. The
Yeah.
unknown
Okay.
spaceman who first explored Venus. And they had to dredge it up from a, I don't know, a lake or river or something like that. And
Okay.
that was one of the many tests that Superboy had. So artistically, I don't know if that's just a permanent fixture of the Presidential Palace. We might have seen it before, but I saw it's named in that narration box. So I had to do deep dive. I was like, oh, look at that. Wow, that goes all the way back.
Yeah. Wow. The prominence of it, and not let alone the unique name for it. Nameless Starman. It seemed to have a weight to it, and I did the same thing. I did some searches, but I did not put those two things together. So
Yeah.
thank you for pointing that out.
Like I said, I had to, because Nameless Star, I had to go, what? I searched for that, but then I was like, it's got to be another name. So I wrote in Spaceman, and that's when it came up. And I was
That was brilliant of you. Yeah.
yeah. A couple things and if you want to pull some stuff from the letter columns, I mean, not the letter columns, the letters that we got from Al and Troy.
Mm-hmm.
Something Troy says here is kind of cool. Talking about first and last contrasts. It's nice how the last panel of the first chapter is Saturn Girl, Chameleon Boy, Dreamy, and Brainy at night on the prison planet, and the last panel on the third chapter is also the four of them at night on Earth.
Yeah.
And then the contrast between the very first page of the first chapter and the very last page of this last chapter, pardon the pun, the contrasts are legion. Whatever missed opportunities there may have been overall, the vast array of first-last page contrasts is not one of them. So this whole thing opened up with Saturn Girl on the prison planet by herself, alone, nobody around her in her prison garb, and then it ends with her basically surrounded by the Legion. So yeah, that's cool. I love book ends like that.
Yeah, that was nice. That's a good, very good point. What did you think of Troy's idea about the character spotlights on the covers?
Right, taking them out of the Legion costumes and putting them into whatever costumes they were wearing, like within that certain chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Says not only would this have been more reflective of the interiors, but it would have been more reflective of the theme, the Legion unlegioned.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that was the best part of that, because the whole idea of there not being a legion, while it is a component of the story, it's really just uh,
Right.
background matter in this, and the fact that they do spend a vast majority of their time not in their their usual legion costumes. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Only thing I could think is branding, marketing,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
the people
They
upstairs, the marketing.
of course.
They're like, wait, what? There's no Legion. What? No, you can't do that. You can't do that.
It's the Legion after all. They're not that well known anyway,
Right.
despite the popularity of the title at this time.
And then you said you liked in Al's letter, Al has an idea about what went on between Dream Girl and Atmos.
Yeah, this is Al, I think, is totally spot on. I love how he described this. So we had that conversation about, were they intimate? What was going on in those barracks after dark? But let's see, where is that? He says, if you look at the dialogue of all the captives, it's very childlike and innocent. So I think any physical intimacy would be in and this is the part I loved, in a tween Disney Channel show level. Love that. Getting to second base means holding hands for more than 10 seconds. That's great. That's great. Yeah, and I agree now. I think that given what Universo was after, it's like, they just need to go to sleep and that's it. Work, eat, sleep. That's it. Otherwise, they would have opportunity to think and maybe get out from under his control.
Yeah, it was really great to get both of those.
Oh yeah,
from Al, from Troy, and Troy, thanks us for those issues. But just to have them, also just to have as part of the conversation, I would love to get more of that. So thank you both to them for that.
Yes, and just because we're now going to move on from the Universo project does not mean, for those of you who are reading along or maybe haven't caught up with us, because I know at least one person that because I had a conversation with him about the show. He's a bit behind us now, but he could catch up. So anyway, what I'm saying is people could still email us and give us feedback on the various storylines that we're covering. Sure. And we'll talk about those in future episodes.
Yeah. Okay. So the Universo project comes to an end. We're not quite done with the episode yet, but we'll let you know what we're doing next, because the next episode, Eric and I are going to dig into the first 6 issues of Bendis and Sook's Legion of Superheroes.
Was that planned, Peter?
Yes.
We talk about that first issue of the Justice League versus the Legion, and now we're going to talk about that. Yeah.
That old producer hat going back on. So we already covered Millennium 1 and 2, and we actually talked about issue 1 of the Legion of Superheroes, but I'm sure most of that stuff will come up again in that first chunk. We're going to do 2 Tales episodes. We're going to divide it up. We're going to cover the first 6 issues, plus whatever came before that as well. I'm sure will come up in the conversation. That'll be the next Tales episode. But then you're going to have to wait for the next first issue 7 through 12, because we have some other plans, which we'll talk about in that tale. We'll talk about that in the tale. Just know that the next episode is a Tales episode. Eric and I you've read the issues. I'm only up to issue 3 or 4. And I'm rereading them now. So I'll be ready. And, we're going to have interesting, those are going to be an interesting episode. But that'll be the next episode drop in terms of our Legion episodes. Looking forward to that.
Yeah. I have to go pull all those issues out and reread those. It's been a long time.
You're going to read them again?
Yeah.
They're so long. God, they're so wordy.
Yeah, but there's not. Bendis doesn't really say much in his wordiness.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this because I liked a lot of the stuff involving the characters. So
Okay.
we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Okay. Awesome.
At least I think I maybe I did. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, I wanted to make mention of this too. Um, if you want more Legion content with Universo, you should go check out. There was a mini series in the 2000s, I guess it was, the Titans Legion, Titans and the
Oh,
Legion, Universal Blaze.
yes, I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm. That was a 4-issue Prestige miniseries. Prestige meaning square bound, uh, um, in like 1999 to or late 1999 to 2000. I mean, they wanted to team up the Titans and the Legion for so long. Even in the 80s, they had planned on it. Would have made sense. They were super super popular. But that story also deals with Universo. I almost hate to read it because if it follows the same pattern, it's gonna be
Yeah,
frustrating.
yeah. So yes, I agree with you on that. So, but so what we would need to have some time pass. But Peter, come on, we have to cover that. It's Legion and Titans.
Legion and Titans, yeah. Dan Jurgens, inked by Phil Jimenez. Dan Jurgens wrote, penciled, colors Tom McCraw, letters from Comicraft. So if you've never read that, and it's the Legion of the era, which is the Archie Legion. Um, because then you have characters like XS in it, and Gates, Kid Quantum, Kinetics, Livewire, Monstrous, right? It's all those Archie Legion characters, and then the Titans characters at that time, which were the original Fab Five plus Argent and Omen characters like that. So yeah, I have to even look. I know I had those at one point. I don't know if I sold them or if I still have them. I can't imagine I sold them, so I'll have to look if I even still have them. Yeah, I'm not ready to read another Universal story.
Yeah, understandable. Understandable. Yeah.
um, One little thing here about okay, so we sometimes touch on where's the Legion throughout the DC universe at this time. Well, they are just in the Legion, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
However, in this month, March of 1987, we have Batman 408, and it is entitled Batman: The New Adventures. It is the first regular issue of Batman taking place, quote unquote, currently or in the present time, because the 4 issues leading up to it was Batman Year One.
Mm.
So in my mind, and I didn't do a deep research on this, but we now have Burn Superman already out. We have Perez on Wonder Woman already out. We're past Year One and into current Batman with a new Jason Todd. So the only real leftover of pre-crisis DC Universe, I think, at this time, is Superboy. And I
Mm.
feel like we are now with Batman 408, and yes, you could make the argument that Year One is probably also, but I feel like this, because it's a present day Batman story and we have the new Jason Todd, we are now officially in post crisis DC Universe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which means a lot in terms of like the Superboy story coming up and some
Right.
other things. So
Mm-hmm. I wondered where you were going with this when you put that particular issue in the notes.
yeah, I was keeping watch of where these, where because the ad for when Wonder Woman came out, they said first it was the Dark Knight, then it was the
Mm.
Man of Steel, now Wonder Woman,
Mm-hmm.
which is not really true because they're just talking about Frank Miller's Dark Knight, but that's not present day Dark Batman,
Right.
So it really feels like they should have said, first Man of Steel, then
Mm-hmm.
Wonder Woman, now Batman. But this Batman New Adventures on 408, they're fine, they're okay. I think they're a poor. You go from Year One to this, and it's like,
Oh
ooh,
yeah.
that's a jump.
Mm-hmm.
But even as grand as Year One is, and I totally understand that's the new origin for the post-crisis Batman, it was taking place in the past. So, it could have just been a retelling and they never touched on it again,
Mm-hmm.
In many ways it kind of echoed what they did with the Man of Tomorrow and whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow, and it felt like a bookend to Dark Knight Returns. So yes, it was in the main book, but what was continuity then? We were still sort of sussing all that out.
Mm-hmm.
So just making that little notion there, and just knowing that unresearched, the only leftover is Superboy, and
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna come up with that soon.
Yeah. Yeah. Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Since we're on this subject, so we have that house ad of Batman 408 in this issue, number 35. On the very last, or the inside, no, not the inside cover. On the very next page, Peter, there's this ad for another team up. Since you brought up Legion Titans, we have the Infinity Inc. and the Outsiders teaming up in 2 specials, which I had no idea about until I read issue 35.
Oh yeah.
And I have since bought those 2 specials and have them in my collection now, waiting to be read.
Nice. There was a bunch of team crossovers, like Infinity Inc. and Titans would cross over, but that was in the regular series. Suicide Squad and the Doom Patrol had their little crossovers. Whether it happened I can't remember if it was like a special or annuals. I loved when they did, the 80s, DC mid 80s.
Yep.
Whew. It only lasts for a couple years, like from 85 to 88. Like, I'll give them that. Then you get to like 88, 89, 90, and you're like, ooh, a little bit of a lull. and then they go back up again. But
yeah,
there was some real, everything was so good. And then I guess, is this the last thing here on our list, right? Yeah.
I think so.
I wanted to give a nod. I sent this link to Eric. There's an artist named Alexander Serra, or Alex Serra. Used to pop up on CGS a bunch of times. I'm fairly certain he showed up to one of the super shows, or maybe a few of them. Was an artist on Legion of Superheroes in the 31st Century. Some of those issues.
He did a couple Teen Titans Go issues as well.
Yep. Created a character called Kid Lantern before the Kid Lanterns that we know recently. It was a
Is it Kid or is it Teen?
Teen Lantern. Sorry, excuse me. You're right. Teen Lantern.
Yeah. When you sent me that and I looked him up to see what else he's done, I saw that cover for Teen Lantern. I'm like, oh my God, really? I didn't know that. I thought that was a Bendis thing.
Yeah, no, she's Guy Gardner is her ancestor, I believe, because she has red hair, and I think that's the way. I think that's the lineage.
I think her name is Jordana Gardner.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So Alex has, over the years, been a big fan of Legion of Superheroes. I have to imagine he's probably made some appearances on Legion of Substitute podcasters. Created a Legion poster way back that I have, color poster of them in the rocket ship and their very Silver Age appearance. Has now created a new poster, and at least currently it's on sale. I don't know if it's limited to anything, but it is a giant black and white poster, not only of the Legion, but of like a lot of their supporting cast members and villains, and it is gigundo.
Mm-hmm.
And it is for sale. I'm asking $45 US. He lives in Canada for the poster plus shipping. Shipping to North America averages somewhere around $30. Payment would be through PayPal. Poster is slightly larger than 30 by 35 inches. And I have it, and you even see a picture here of someone holding it up. It is it's large. And it's for sale. So I'll put a link in. I'm sure, Eric and I will put a link in, and so people can go to. It's just so cool. It's so cool. It's got the Kents.
I like the logo. It's because the logo is the style of the Legion logo, and Not logo, the title script, I guess.
Right.
So yeah, that's really cool.
You know, there's Lightning Lad with his metal arm. Doc Regulus is there. Universo, Kid Psycho, the Legion of Super Pets are there. Yeah, you just go on. I mean, I think when I saw it, he asked me. He said, "Can you name everybody on there?" I said, testing my knowledge there.
Hey,
I'm not as. There's even the whale, the space whale that swallows
for Ultra Boy.
Ultra Boy.
Did you notice who is center of this, prominently in the center?
Oh,
Considering
there she
who we've
is.
been talking about?
Yeah, Saturn Girl. About
Yeah,
that.
that's a nice bit of serendipity.
Yeah. So really great, just a really really great poster. So, um, oh, and then at the end, yeah, at the bottom there's a roll call: Jerry Siegel, Joe Shuster, Edmund Hamilton, all the artists and creators. You know,
Oh,
Jim Mooney,
that is
George
awesome.
Klein, Neil Adams, Carrie Bates, Mort Weisinger, George Tuska, and on and on and on. Al Plastino. Yeah, beautiful. Just and amazing. So it's on sale. So if it's still on sale, you can see all the information on the website. And we'll, as I said, we'll post show notes. We'll post a link in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, have we come to the end?
I think that's it. Yeah. We've covered everything that we were talking about covering. So yeah,
Great. Well, that means next up we get to play with the somewhat current Legion issues. Excited.
current as of a few years ago.
A few
Yeah.
years ago, right? Hey, anything that gets me to read some of my comics from the past 5 years, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. So, all right. If you want to send us email about that Bendis and Sook story, or if you want to send us emails on issue 36 or some of the Superboy stuff that's coming up, we're just going to keep chugging along here. You can do so at peter@thedailyrios.com or
longboxreview@gmail.com.
thank you for continuing to listen and support the podcast. This has been fun. And we are now on the other side of the hill towards the end of this series.
The back half.
Yeah. Ooh, fun. All right. As always, long live the Legion
Project Podcast.
See you, Eric.
Bye, Peter.